Hello, guys. Um, Welcome to hopefully our last installment of this. Um, so we've talked about issues and conclusions. Now I want to talk with you about reasons. So, we talked as a review, issues are the question and conclusions are the answer, or issues are the question, conclusions are the answer, reasons are the why. All right, so that's something we want to keep in mind. Um, it's not enough to just say, okay, what is your question and what is your conclusion? We need to know why um, to accept something. A lot of times, if we don't have that premise, um, we don't have a rational way to accept or reject something. Okay. Um, a lot of times we see just results. So what the issue is and what an organization or politician decides to do, if we don't understand the rationale, sometimes we automatically fill that in with our own, and a lot of times it's not good. Okay, so we want to understand people's rationale for decisions they make, and a lot of times that comes back to people's values. Um, Reasons can tie back to a person's individual belief, evidence, metaphors, allegories, other statements offered to support or justify their conclusion. Um, and this is all done to create credibility for a conclusion that they make. Yeah, so, excuse me. Usually this is done with a little trick aspect to it. But it says, which of the following are reasons every class should conclude with student evaluations? A pig is smarter than a mule. Employers should be able to fire any employee who refuses to take a drug test. As you can see here in bold, none of these are reasons, they are claims. And we can't say that they're weak or strong claims because we don't have any rationale or reason for why we should agree or not agree with these. So again, reasons are the why. So we might look at a statement like this. So certain lawyers should be prevented from representing those charged with felonies. Okay. If we want to ask the question, why would someone say that? And the reasons might be strong or weak. An example of a weak reason that you might hear from your parents sometimes or other people is because I said so. That's a poor reason. And I can't really fault my kids. A lot of times they'll ask me why for stuff. And I've learned as a parent that sometimes you just say because I said so, because you're just tired of justifying yourself all the time, that they need to have a million reasons before they decide to agree to something. Okay. Or it's worth their while. So it's like, why do I have to put on my jammies? Because I said so. Okay. Or because it's bedtime, or just a million other things. Okay. But if for like your own piece, if you just go on, I think this is, the conclusion, and because I said so and because I think so is not good enough. On the other hand, to make strong evidence can lead more people, or strong reason can lead more people to agree with you. So again, if I say certain lawyers should be prevented from representing those charged with felonies, you would say because of evidence concerning serious mistakes made by inexperienced lawyers in felony cases. So in this case, now they're clarifying what kind of lawyers they're referring to. So if a felony case involves someone who, this is a pretty big deal, like they could spend a long time in jail if, an attorney makes a mistake. This could result in, a mistrial, which wouldn't be a good thing if the person is guilty. Or it could be they're not defending their client as well as they could. Okay. So again, you can't determine the worth of a conclusion until you have identified the reasons. So if you can't identify those three things, issue, conclusion, and reasons, you're going to be in some trouble. Okay. So, initially when you're hearing an argument, you need to be open-minded. Sometimes we're like ready with guns ablazing and we're ready to fight against, a given conclusion. But, listen first, see what reasons people give. And sometimes you'll be surprised of how that might change your mind. Okay. Um, so again, reasons are the rationale for why we should believe a certain conclusion. Reasons are going to have intent. Okay, they want you to believe in a certain way. Reasons ask for you to have a reaction. Okay, you can either approach this with a gold prospect where you can take those and say, okay, I like this, but maybe not this. Or you could do the sponge approach, like these are all the lists of reasons that are given. But you need to respond somehow. And not all reasons quality is going to be the same. There's some issues and conclusions that people make and their reasons are just dumb or don't even logically connect. So that's just something to, keep in mind. But sometimes we want to be careful with that, because if we really don't agree with the conclusion people make, we can automatically prejudge their reasons without actually hearing them or considering them. Yeah, I think that is good on this one. Sometimes it takes time to locate an argument before we assess it. So, you need to give yourself some time. You might read something once and be like, okay, this is what I think, but we didn't really listen or list out the things. This is a process that takes a little bit of time. Just like you, if you make an argument, you want someone to give you, a fair listen and an evaluation before they make a determination. If automatically, you go to your parents and you do something wrong and you're trying to justify it and they ground you without even listening, or they, and you feel like you have a legitimate excuse, that's not fair. And that's kind of the same thing in real life. You want someone to hear you out before they automatically, bring the hammer down. Okay. And if you can't answer why a person believes this way, then you really haven't found the reasons. Okay. So here's a practice. Should school metal detectors be placed in every public school? Teachers were surveyed about their opinions. Many indicated that they never know what to expect from their students and thought that metal detectors would be a safe solution to unexpected circumstances. 57% of the teachers agreed that metal detectors would help the school become a safer environment. Therefore, public schools should install metal detectors for safety. All right, Ulat, to answer first, what is the issue and what is the conclusion? Okay, issue. Should metal detectors be installed in public schools? That one's right at the beginning as a question, so right given to you. If we look at the end, we have a keyword therefore for a conclusion. Public schools should install metal detectors for safety. Now, when we look at the reasons, those might get a little bit tricky. Okay, one reason they list that I can see, teachers were given a survey. They said they didn't know what to expect from students. And it would be a safer solution to unexpected circumstances. Another reason they give, 57% of teachers agree that metal detectors would help the school become a safer environment. Okay, so we have those two reasons. Okay, there's a student survey or a teacher survey, and they give a statistic. Okay, now that we've identified those, then we can kind of go into the next phase of thinking if it's good or not, good reasons to support. Yeah, I would personally think that they should find better reasons, but just to be fair, I identified them first. Okay, another one. Genetic screening of embryos is morally wrong. People do not have the right to terminate a potential life just because it might not be the right sex or may have a defect of some kind. It cannot be said that a person's quality of life is severely changed by a birth defect or that parents should get to choose the sex of their babies. Okay, of their baby. Okay. Again, not trying to be political, but just as an example. What is the issue and what is the conclusion? Okay. This one, you might need to work a little bit backwards for issue and conclusion. So conclusion is actually going to happen at the beginning. Genetic screening of embryos is morally wrong. Okay, and then they give their rationale. That would be their conclusion. So the issue would be, is genetic screening of embryos okay or morally acceptable? That would be the issue. Okay, so you see how I worked backwards from that? Okay. Now reasons they give, they list a belief. People do not have the right to terminate a potential life just because it might not be the right sex or might have a defect of some kind. And then they make an observation. It cannot be said that a person's quality of life is severely changed by a birth defect or that parents should get to choose the sex of their baby. So that's kind of a mix. Okay, so observation and personal belief. Okay, so those are two reasons that they give for that. Now, whether we judge the quality of that, is it have merit to the conclusion? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to decide. Okay, but again, we need to make sure we understand what those are. Just like we talked about with meta discourse, there's keywords that we'll see that draw our attention to reasons, and this is going to come all throughout your essays typically. You'd see something like, as a result of, that would be an example leading to a reason, because of the fact that it's supported by studies show, for that reason, in view of, because of the evidence. Okay, these are all things that tie into reason. Okay, and just to put yourself in if you're not sure if you found a reason, put yourself in the communicator's place and ask, okay, if I'm this person writing this essay, why do I believe this? What am I putting down? Okay. And if you can paraphrase this, you've probably discovered the answer for the reasons. Okay. And again, be fair. Even if you don't agree with the author's reasons or don't think they support the conclusion, just remember, evaluation comes later. So we have different types of reasons. One is a list of evidence. So just proof that they're trying to, or someone uses to furnish proof for something he is trying to claim is true, or she is. These can be research findings, examples from real life, statistics, appeals, so ethos to different authorities and experts, personal testimonials, metaphors, analogies. We're going to talk about these more in depth later, but just having an idea of these are things that are present, and there's more. Sometimes they can be prescriptive. You can make a general statement. Parents don't have a right to determine the sex of their child. That would be a prescriptive piece of evidence. Okay, it would be a general statement, prescriptive statement, descriptive beliefs, like I don't believe in this, or it could just be a general principle. These are evidence, or reasons, excuse me. And again, you can judge the moral basis of it, but just someone having, like, testifying that this is the case would be prescriptive. Here is another example. The number of people in the United States that are obese is growing quickly. Studies indicate that over 25% of Americans are obese, not to mention the number of simply overweight Americans. Okay. So in this case, what is the evidence presented? I think we have a general observation. We have a statistic. 25% of Americans are obese. Maybe another just general observation. Okay. And again, we can use this to base our observations this way. I don't see anything prescriptive in that one. Let's try this one. In today's society, there are all sorts of regulations on media, such as television ratings. Do these ratings allow for people to make educated decisions about what they will or will not watch? Okay, so in this case, guys, we have an idea of what the issue is. Do TV ratings really give a good indication for parents of what they should or shouldn't let their kids watch? Do ratings entice people to watch a show even though they know they're not supposed to? That could be another issue. Okay, how many parents actually go to the television rating to determine their children are watching a show? Okay, that sounds like another issue. More often than not, the television ratings do not prevent children from watching shows that society believes they are not mature enough to watch. Television ratings are unenforceable guidelines. If one believes in the censorship of media for minors, items such as the V-chip should be used for the purpose rather than the simple tagging rating at the top of the screen. Okay, now I kind of deliberately misled you guys when I said issues because there's a lot of questions, but not all of those are like the main issue. Okay. If we want to discover what the main issue is, we look here. If one believes that censorship of media for minors, Censorship of media for minor items such as the V-chip should be used for the purpose rather than simple tagged rating systems at the top of the screen. So more or less their issue is, are ratings enough to prevent children from watching inappropriate shows? And their conclusion is no. Okay. So they suggest a V-chip. This again is maybe a little bit old. I think the rating systems are actually quite appropriate now. I don't know if it prevents people from watching shows they shouldn't, but you can see a lot more details of why a show is rated the way it is. You can even look up, instances where something comes up, or stuff that you want to avoid. Not all R-rated movies are created equally. There's some that people might choose to watch, and some are like, I don't want to watch that for these reasons. Okay, so anyways, that's just a soapbox for me. Okay, so we got the issue, we got the conclusion. What are the reasons? Okay. We have a lot of searching questions, rhetorical questions. These might be used as evidence sometimes to get people thinking. Okay. Just a general observation. Again, more often than not, television ratings do not prevent children from watching shows that society believes they're not mature enough to watch. Television ratings are unenforceable guidelines. Okay, that would be another general statement. Okay. I would even say this conclusion is a prescriptive conclusion. Okay, this is what you need to do. I don't see much in the way of prescriptive reasons here, but I have written this out for us. Points 2 and 3 form a descriptive belief. Okay, so implied, a rhetorical question. 4 and 5 are just another reason, general belief. And then 6 provides the reason or another general belief. So, okay, I've more or less said that. Okay. One thing to keep in mind is sometimes you can have layers of reasons. Sometimes you give a reason and then you need to give a reason for that reason, or you give a reason for specific evidence. So you get this layering. So like reason and then evidence, and then you have reason and then you have evidence for that. So it just kind of is sorry, my hands are not helpful in that, kind of a building idea. Okay. Then you might say that conclusion will function as a main reason for another conclusion. So sometimes you come to many conclusions about a various reason. This might get a little bit deep, and we can look at some examples how this will work. And again, sometimes you need to have other reasons to support a reason that you gave. Okay, so hopefully that's not too deep or too fast. But ways that you can identify reasons just as you're analyzing a text is, circle indicator words like that meta discourse I talked about. So you might say, for example, for this reason. Okay. You might underline different things in different colors or highlight it if you're doing it electronically. Label the reason in the margins. Sometimes I'll do that. Oftentimes your books will have those, and I do that all the time. If you read a long passage, just quickly write down, some of those main reasons. Just return those reasons several times. If you can't understand all the reasons, we can talk about that later for ambiguity, but, depending on our acceptance of a conclusion, okay, before you can accept or reject it, you need to consider the merits of the argument or the reasons. Okay, do the reasons support it? Okay. If we make weak reasons and we create weak reasoning. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let me talk about this more in terms of your own writing. Okay, we've talked about this previously, but beware of weak sense critical thinking. That again is you're only looking for reasons that support your viewpoint. So if you're reading essays that only support what you already believe, you're not really doing yourself a favor of knowing the full argument on either side. So here's a thought that I would like you guys to follow after. Too many times I see students start an essay and they said, okay, I want to write an essay about this conclusion. And then that's where they get the weak sense critical thinking, is they go and look up these examples that are just supporting what they already believe. I would say the strongest conclusions are one that follow your reflection about reasons and what they mean. So if you're reading both sides of an argument and then you determine, okay, based on what I've said, this is my conclusion, rather than this is my conclusion and I want to find all these reasons to support it. You can do that, but it's not going to be a strong conclusion. Okay. So this is called reverse logic or backwards reasoning. Okay. So this is my conclusion. Now I need to make sure I have reasons that make sense to this. And, I am guilty of this. I've written papers where I'm just like, okay, this is my conclusion, but I'm not finding the evidence that I want. So maybe I'm wrong on this. You have to read and you have to study that stuff. And then you determine, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is the pattern that I'm seeing. And believe me, it can be difficult, especially on like a dissertation or a thesis or something. So thesis paper, not the thesis sentence. Okay, so why is this question important? Again, once you've identified issue and conclusion, you need to know the why. If you can't identify why someone came to the conclusion, you're not going to give a fair reaction. And again, I can't tell you how many times we know like a policy that a group made. And to be fair, a lot of times organizations or politicians are not candid on their decisions. They just say, okay, this is what the issue we saw and this is the conclusion we came to. And we get lost on, okay, why did we come to this? And that happens so many times. People just say, this is my conclusion, and you just need to follow. It's like, okay, well, what's your rationale? Okay. For you as a writer and just as a civil, a citizen, you need to be able to communicate your rationale things clearly. Okay. Yeah. So again, identifying the reasons is the next step to deciding whether or not you should accept or reject an author's conclusion. Even before you make that decision, you need to make sure you understand all those components. Okay. So for now, guys, that's all I have. So if you have any questions, as usual, let me know.